Alright. Hey, it's Mitch from Swap Time. I want to show you the difference between the LT4 superchargers. There's basically two different types that you need to know about. There is a dry sump supercharger and there's a wet sump supercharger. The wet sumps all come on Camaros and Cadillac CTSVs. The dry sumps are only on Corvettes. And I'll show you why that matters, because if you do an engine conversion and you're using the LT1 engine, you need to have the correct supercharger or have the correct serpentine drive to make this work. Really the major difference between these two superchargers is, if you want to come over here, look this way, you have your blower pulley. The Corvette sets an inboard much more. The reason that is because a LT4 Corvette engine actually has a different crank, and the difference with the crank is that it's much shorter. It's about 2 inches inboard, has a different timing cover, and your spacing is much more inboard. And you cannot put a standard like LT4 Camaro pulley on it. There's just not enough snout for it to grab on. So I found all this out the hard way when I bought my first supercharger, which ended up being a Corvette. So I then later found out the Camaros use a standard dry sump system. So you can see his pulley is much further out. So because of this, when you go to get a serpentine drive to make all this work, you can get a Billet Specialties drive or a Drive Junkie, and they'll specify wet sump or dry sump. The problem is if you're doing an LT1 or L86, you have to basically use a wet sump system. If you use a dry sump supercharger, your pulley is way off. So maybe you could remove the pulley and extend it out, but it looks like it'd have to be almost 2 inches longer. So I'm not sure if that'd be hard on a bearing to support that. I'm not an engineer, but the best bet would be to just start out with the correct supercharger, which would be a Camaro. But if you, let's say you buy a crate engine and you want dry sump, you can use this and you still buy accessories for it, so you get power steering and all that. It'd be like Drive Junkie's dry sump serpentine setup to make all this match. Now that's the basic difference on what is, like, why you need a certain supercharger. Now I'll show you the difference between years. This one is supposed to be a 17. This is actually off a LT4 GM crate engine. It's never used. Here are the water to air intercoolers inside the supercharger. See how they're flat? Now I'm gonna pull this lid off. This is off a brand new Corvette, but they didn't even drive it really. It's super clean. Put this down gently. So now you can see these coolers are actually bigger and they're angled. So my theory is they just did this, of course, because they have a bigger lid. You might as well put a bigger cooler in it to cool the air charge down more. So that's one way to tell if you have maybe like a 2018 or 19 supercharger. This one would have the flat lid on it. Basically, see how thick this and tall this lid is? The early styles went up at an angle. So they don't have enough the same volume. But you can use this lid on either supercharger. But of course you would not want to use the small lid on this because it would just hit the coolers. And really that's the only major difference on an early versus old supercharger would be the coolers that I know of. If you guys have any extra information, please post it up on this. But you can find these superchargers relatively cheap. Anywhere, I've gotten one for $500. They usually sell on eBay for $2,200 with a few other goodies that come with it. A lot of these do not come with lids. The lids themselves will cost $600. This lid right now is $600. The thin lid is $350. These supposedly give you about anywhere from 5 to 20 horsepower. There's different dyno graphs, but it's been hard for people to really show exactly how much more power they make, because I think Gen 5s are kind of finicky to tune. But this is beneficial. If you have hood clearance issues, then you definitely want to use a small lid and use the older supercharger. I do know 17 and up, they did something either with the bearings or rotor design. They did increase some stuff because the early ones were getting hot. They were producing too much heat. I believe 14s and 15s and 16s. Then 17s, they corrected the issue, which might be this design. Again, if you guys have the information, let me know. But I thought it had something to do more with the rotors and the bearings. And just to show, we'll put this lid on my supercharger. And this is going to go on my truck. I'll show you where I'm at on the truck over here. So I had the Holley, this is a Gen 4 drive with Gen 5 adapters. This is I believe their high mount drive. Puts the AC compressor over here, alternator. You can run your Gen 5 alternator. Next, I got the Ict Billet Adapters. Why you need these is if you have an LT1 or an L83, L86, the bolt pattern is different on the heads for the supercharger. That's really all it is. So this is just an adapter they sell that changes the bolt pattern. And I think it does an alright job with the ports. It's pretty close. Now what I'm able to do, I'm trying to save some dollars and time. Instead of replacing this entire valley cover with the LT4 design, is this about $300. What I did, the only thing that was really hitting was my PCV. So I cut it down a little bit and used a O2 sensor block off and put a little bit of RTV, sealed that up, and the supercharger will actually set flush. Next was a fuel line. I just used my nylon Dorman setup and connected it directly to this part. Anyways, as you can see, it's connected there. The stainless steel line goes out this direction. There's just nowhere for it to feed, so I haven't figured out that part. Even if you had the LT4 fuel line, this is probably in the way. And there's no directions on the Ict Billet website, no information. But that's where I'm at. We're going to set the supercharger on here now and bolt it down and see how it goes. My next issue is going to be adding an idler pulley. We'll just see what we can do. I'm trying to get ready for LS Fest, which is this weekend. So let's see if we can do it. Oh man. Here we got the LT4 supercharger. I got it bolted down, except for the lid. There's a couple of screws I need to lock tight for the bypass blade. But looking here, you can see using the Camaro LT4 supercharger, we have perfect belt alignment based off your crank. So this is the stock L83 crank balancer, which is the same as the LT1 or the L86. And then the Holley Gen 4 drive is made to adapt with spacers. Uses a Gen 4 water pump off a Corvette, uses their spacers to change the bolt pattern. But using the Holley drive, I can get all this spaced out, and I have power steering on the other side. There's AC over here, but I'm not hooking up the AC right now because I'm just trying to make it LS Fest. And I want a short belt as possible on it for now to get this all figured out. I only have, today's Tuesday, I got till Friday. It actually starts Friday, but Saturday is kind of day everyone goes. So this is right in the way by a reservoir, but this is remote mount, so I can put it anywhere else. So we're going to drain the fluid, put the throttle body on, and start seeing what we can do on the intake routing. My mass airflow sensor is going to be upside down because I had it over here, so once the tube's flipped, it'll be upside down. But got a time crunch, so I'll do the best I can and then figure it out from there. But it's coming along pretty good. It looks super cool, this old truck. with this in it. It's funny. All right, well, again, just to wrap it up, the main difference is the spacing of your pulley, your snout. Newer superchargers have the different intercoolers that look to be larger, and they come out at an angle, and that's about it. Your throttle body spacing is the same from here to here on both chargers is the same, so you don't gain any clearance. You only gain clearance with your accessory drive, but your throttle body is going to be in the same position. Cool. I hope this helps you guys if you guys are considering doing a LT4 supercharger upgrade. Thanks for watching. Bye.